2 Tyler Perry movies in 1 year? It's like Jesus being born twice. Let's just fucking go. Here are my immediate thoughts, and you goddamn right, this is a spoiler edition of Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black. Are you ready for another round in the absolutely insane world of Tyler Perry? Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black is the first in a 4-picture deal that Perry has inked with Amazon MGM, and it is just the latest bit of Black Sandy, from who I am dubbing the Black Roger Corman, and this stars Meagan Good and Corey Harding. Ava, a young bank professional, is devastated when her abusive husband Dallas abandons their marriage. She is determined to fight until fate intervenes, revealing the wicked deeds that once upon a time sabotaged Ava's destiny to connect with her soulmate. And this movie kicks off with one of the craziest opening scenes in any movie, and that includes Perry's own Mea Culpa. So we start at a church in this movie instead of at the end, and we are at a funeral, and it is for one of the Bertram boys, a bunch of country-ass hoodlums from small town Georgia. And here we are introduced to Ava, played by Meagan Good, and her husband Dallas, played by Corey Harding. And let me just say, Meagan Good is one of the most stunning people on this planet, and I am just going to manifest this into the universe. If she is ever cast to play Wonder Woman, I wouldn't be mad. Okay, I got that out. We good? Cool. So Ava's preacher father, Clarence, played by Richard Lawson, is the one processing over the funeral. And I just love Black preachers and how all the inflections are different on every single word, and that's how things are done. So today we are going to talk about Tyler Perry and his movies and how they are all crazy. Can I get an amen? And somewhere in the middle of this funeral service, it takes a turn because Pastor Clarence goes off on this man, even saying that this man is in hell. And I'm watching, and all the other extras and characters are like, oh, hell no. And I'm like, man, if church was like this all the time, I never would have left. So the Bertrand family, down to Mama Bertrand, played by Ursula Robinson, who is awesome. And I think Tyler Perry kind of made a mistake not making her the main villain, but I digress. Anyway, Mama Bertrand stands up and starts cussing everyone out. Ava's family, Ava in particular, and then she starts taking off her wig, and I'm like, are we about to see 2 mamas throw heads in a church? Oh God, please. So Mama Bertrand takes off her wig and her blouse, and she throws it, and she's like, I don't need your hand-me-downs. We don't need your help for this funeral. We never needed your money. We know that Ava, tried to help out, but she's no good. She's always been no good. And you see where this is going. And Mama Bertrand's like, boys, let's get our son. And everyone's like, whoa, what's going on? And Pastor Clarence is like, no, let them go. And I'm like, oh no, I see where this is going. The Bertrand sons go to take the coffin, and Mama Bertrand is like, no, leave the coffin. They take the blood-clean man out of the coffin and carry the dead body out of the church. What? Seriously, this has to be seen to be believed. And then you're in a Tyler Perry movie because you're like, man, that's the hook. Now we're going to go forward in time and we're just going to get to our main plot. But it's like, no, those really simple, basic Tyler Perry credits start rolling. And it's like, we got a really weird fade out. And no, we're just right back at the church. And it's like 10 minutes later. And I wished Tyler Perry stayed at that level of craziness, because that was an 11. Suffice to say, the rest of the movie, for the most part, on average, on the Tyler Perry crazy scale is a 6. So let's start with the performances. Meagan Good is kind of too good to be in this movie. Like Taraji P. Henson in Acrimony, her talent level is so far above this film that I wish that she was in a better movie that tackled this kind of subject matter. Corey Hardick as Dallas is a gaslighting son of a bitch, and the one thing Tyler Perry does know how to do is he knows how to write a really good villain. But man, Dallas is something else. From the jump, this dude is unlikable. He has a resting bitch face that you just want to bitch slap from the jump, and he's just whiny. He's just like, oh, you always trying to change me, woman? What you call that? Saving me? And I'm like, you've been with this guy for 20 years? Actually, when I think about it, goddamn, it is sad and possible. Humans suck. And here is what I think is happening. Tyler Perry is starting to become a bit of a nihilist. It's not just the abuse that Ava endures, which is absolutely ridiculous, but at the end of this movie, everyone literally in some way has some blood on their hands. The movie ends with this hokey musical interlude and a weird fade to black, and it makes you think that everything is all right with the world, but when you sit and think about it for 5 minutes, this is one of Perry's darkest endings. So Ava obviously has her girlfriend, Rona, played by Taylor Polidor, and she is the only one that lives in any sense of reality. And of course, she is introduced as, I'm your friend, girl, I'm your friend. Yes, we know. Tyler Perry's characters always like to describe exactly who they are. Rona, like I said, is the only one living in reality. Her husband, Jim, played by Shannon Wallace, is inexplicably Dallas's best friend for some reason. He takes all of Dallas's emotional and psychological abuse. He's at the divorce proceeding for some reason. He lets Dallas talk all this shit at Rona, and good for her that she can stand up for herself. And it doesn't help that we still get those old school patriarchal ideas of, oh, I was just a good woman and I needed to stand by my man. And it's like, no, stop that. And the more I think about it, as more of these movies come out by Tyler Perry, the more I'm thinking he is actually against those ideas, because the women in his movies that all say, oh, I need to be a good woman and stand by my man, clearly need to be doing the opposite of that. There's a scene where all the Bertram boys are at a redneck bar. This is where we meet Benji, played by Joseph Lee Anderson, who has some of the biggest teeth I have ever seen. And that's not an insult, that's a compliment. Dude just has a big smile. But they see him and they talk about kicking his ass again. See, when Ava and Dallas were teenagers, when they were 17, they were still together even back then, and they broke up. And Ava confided in Benji, and the Bertram boys kicked his ass for it and put him in the hospital. Oh, did those boys get in trouble for that? Let me just say that the police in this movie, for the most part, are basically invisible. So the Bertrams threaten to beat up Benji, and the redneck bar owner has to get his shotgun out and be like, no, there's no fights going on over here, and tries to chase them away. Dallas is there, he's completely drunk. Ava came to pick him up and he's like, no, I'm driving. And he's obviously drunk and she's like, no, you can't drive. One of his older brothers has to kick Dallas's ass to convince him that drunk driving is bad. Everyone is toxic in this movie. And somehow we are supposed to believe that this drunken, belligerent, gang idiot Dallas is somehow able to hold down a paying job? Fuck you, movie. Perry tries to give us some semblance of character with him. There's a scene right after that bar scene where Dallas is all sad and broken, and he talks about murdering his father. What? Yeah, that's a plot detail that just comes up and is dropped and then is just brought up one other random moment at the end of the movie, and that's it. But this is a Tyler Perry movie in every way in terms of its cheaply made construction. The lighting is flat, the ADR is ridiculously bad, especially when trying to show people talking in cars. And the transitions and editing is just so amateurish and bad, like Hallmark 1990s TV movie bad. And let me just joke about the next scene with Rhoda driving Ava to the bank where they work at. And Rhoda is still talking about the Bertrams taking that boy out the casket, because you know what? We would still be talking about the Bertrams taking that dead boy out of the casket. Is it bad writing? Yes. Is it how we talk? 100%. Perry ends the scene with two insane lines. You rescue cats, you rescue niggas. And I'm like, oh shit, she's talking truth. And then Rhoda turns the radio on. She's like, ooh, that's my jam. And I'm just like, the same person wrote this script? Like, Dallas is one of the most aggressively, annoyingly belligerent characters I have seen in a movie in a long time. He gaslights, he's whiny, he's jealous, he's insecure, he's clearly mentally disturbed and came up from a really fucked up upbringing. But there were times where I was like, Tyler Perry, come get your boy. One of the major scenes is when Dallas arrives at a restaurant where Rhoda and Jim are waiting for him and Ava, and Dallas left Ava at the house, by the way. And he comes in all drunk and belligerent, and I'm like, there is no way this man would walk up in a restaurant this nice and be drunk and be this asshole-ish and would not get trounced at the first. Dallas then goes on a tirade and then demands his divorce. And it's one of those scenes where it's like a Western, where he gets super loud and everyone just gets quiet and stares at him. He's like, what the fuck are you looking at? And then everything just kind of goes back to normal when we hear the music in the restaurant again. Everyone just eats like nothing's happening. I'm like, no! The police would have come and shot this man dead in the streets, and we would have gone out and rioted about it because we would have said that the police went too far. But with a character like Dallas, is Tyler Perry actually making a case that a character like him does deserve death? Is he challenging us to see them in a certain light or forgive our brothers in a certain way? And Rhoda looks at her husband Jim, who is obviously flabbergasted at everything's going on. And after Dallas leaves, she's like, do something. And I'm like, what is he gonna do now? And then the next scene is wild because Rhoda is driving Ava home and Ava is absolutely crushed and distraught. And she's like, well, you know, when I was 40 years old, I had a feeling that Dallas was gonna leave me anyways. And Rhoda's like, what are you talking about? And Meagan Good is like, well, I'm 37, I'm almost 38. And Dallas said, no one's gonna want any 40-year-old pussy. And the look that Rhoda gives in response to that is everything. And at the same time, I'm like, Meagan Good, have you looked at yourself in the mirror lately? Rhoda takes Ava home and she gives Ava a letter. And it is a list of every dirty thing Dallas has ever done to Ava ever since they met. Now, if you are a friend and you had to compile a list over 20 years of every wrong thing this person did, girl, you are not as good of a friend as you should be. You should be dragging this woman, kicking and screaming back to church. Ava then eventually ends up back with her parents, and she stands for Will Smith. Apparently there's a bunch of Will Smith posters on the wall. By the way, we are only 35 minutes in. And Ava tortures herself. I cooked, I cleaned, I stood by him, and I'm like, no, you have these old-fashioned, antiquated ideas of relationships. And I'm just like, Tyler Perry does not understand women, especially black women. And it's like, that's the psychology. And it's like, is that why Madea exists? Is that why he tries to dress up like a woman? Is he trying to absolve what he sees as himself as like a horrible black man, and maybe turning himself into a saintly old woman will absolve all of that? And then we get a scene of Ava jogging, and there's this like montage of her saying, oh, we're gonna work it out, but she's jogging, and it's just a random clip of moments. It's really terribly edited, and the music choice is weird. And then we get a scene of Ava with her parents, and they're watching old clips of her when she was in track and field as a teenager, and when she graduated and things like that. And of course, the person that plays young Ava looks nothing like her, and that's another Tyler Perryism. But even the VHS footage that is used doesn't even look like real VHS. It looks like modern footage that was manipulated in like Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. And even the grain for the different moments on the same VHS isn't even the same. It's not even the same VHS grain. So not even that is consistent. And then Pastor Clarence, Ava's father, pulls out a tape of all of the events that the family had. And he's like, I never saw one smile. I never noticed you smile once. Feels like everyone is sort of complicit in what is happening here. But you always know shit is real when someone you never expect to say the word trifling says it. And when Pastor Clarence said it about Dallas, I almost choked. So Ava's mother, Jean, played by Debbie Morgan, somehow found the list of horrible things Dallas did, and she tortures herself. She's like, oh my God, what did I do wrong as a mother? She tortures herself. And I'm like, is there going to be a scene where we see Pastor Clarence torture himself for how he feels he wrongly raised Ava? And there's a great line. This is beyond trying. Lord have mercy. These are actual words that Tyler Perry wrote on the page and said this was good dialogue. Now, it's very clear, especially from the list that Rona created, that Dallas was physically abusive to Ava. And I'm like, are there never times where she showed up at work or showed up at Rona's house or showed up with her parents or anything and she had no marks or bruises? Was it one of those times where Dallas was physically abusive in a way where she was able to conceal it? But he is so crazy that I'm just like, it's impossible. So I'm just like, how is no one not truly intervened in this toxic relationship? It's Tyler Perry world. It's just not meant to happen. And Ava's mom is like, we can't let Dad know about the list because he'll kill him. And I'm like, let him know. And then Tyler Perry interrupts this super serious moment with a juvenile period joke. Tyler Perry, that's some old man shit. And at some point, the movie turns into a Western. There are just some needle drops that are just crazy. We get to a meet cute where Pastor Clarence takes Ava out to the feed market and Benji is there, and Ava wants no part of it. She clearly sees what her dad is trying to do, and Ava's dad is like, man, is that all the game you got? And I'm like, oh, this is all a bad idea. But there is one other church scene in this movie, and man, that got me rocking. I am an atheist, and I was still like, joy, joy, joy. Then we get to the next scene. It's a bake sale, and Benji again tries to impress himself upon Ava, this time using his kid, who is a terrible baker, and everyone says that she's a horrible baker. And he basically uses her as a way to like kind of ease his way in and, you know, get back in with good graces with Ava. And even Benji is sort of trying to gaslight his way into a relationship with Ava. He's like, when I got divorced, I was so angry and I was mad at all the women in the world. But then I realized not all women are like that. And then there are women like you. Run, bitch, run! You in the Tyler Perry movie, all them niggas is trifling. Ho, get the fuck out of there. Then there's a county fair scene, and it's just like they just put like a bunch of rides and just little games on like a park. There's like 30 extras there. And again, Benji is there. And Ava and Benji meet up in the back of his pickup truck, and they're drinking whiskey. And she's like, why didn't you press charges on the Bertram boys when they beat you up? And he's like, nah, man, I just didn't think about it. And I'm like, well, no, it wouldn't have been your responsibility. It would have been your parents' responsibility. And on top of that, the cops probably would have pressed charges anyway. And what is it about Tyler Perry and having virginal women who have only been with one man their entire life? She's like drunk in the back of the truck, and she's like, I want to make love to you, Benji. And Benji's like, nah, because I want you to focus on me. And if you make love to me right now, you're just doing it to get back at Dallas. And I want you to focus all of your attention on me. And I'm like, nigga, didn't you set this up? So Dallas gets a text from his family. It's a picture of Benji and Ava at the park. And Dallas is, you know, goes crazy. He goes to Ava's work. And the way he comes in, it's like immediately, especially at like a bank or a financial institution, a guard would be right there and be like, nope, you are leaving. And then we get the divorce proceeding, and Jim is there, and as like the only representative, and I'm like, is he the only black lawyer in Atlanta? So after the divorce proceedings, Rona is like, hey, Ava, let's celebrate. Let's go to a party. She gives Ava a THC gummy. They go to a party. I think a lot of the same extras that were in the county fair scene are also in this scene. And there are some people that are just like, they just have their shirts off and they're just dancing and they're grinding. And I'm just like, who are these people? And of course, Dallas shows up to disrupt everything. He sees Jim, and Jim goes out to meet him out there. And he's like, oh man, what's going on? He's like, hey, chill out. And Dallas is looking out. It's like, man, you throwing a party? You didn't invite me? What kind of a friend are you? And it's like, nah, this is some other shit. This is about Ron. He's like, man, I need a bitch, man. Let me go. And he's like, no, stay in the car. And he's like, is Ava in there? Let me see her. And Jim's like, Jesus God. And I'm like, why are you friends with this man? Call the police and get him out of there. And Dallas is like, nigga, pick a side. And I'm like, pick a side! Call the cops! And then Benji takes Ava home. And Ava is like, oh, thank you for showing me such a great time tonight. I really needed it. You're a good man. That's like the one thing that all men want to hear. You're a good man. And then she's like, hey, you know, if you want to stay, I got a guest bedroom and everything like that. And Benji responds with one of the best lines of 2024. He's like, I can't stay in the guest bedroom tonight. I want to make love to you. It was by the grace of God that I didn't make love to you in the back of that truck that night. What? And then they go in, and Benji just goes down, and he's like, I'm just gonna eat your whole face with my teeth. Like, he goes down on her, and I'm like, girl, make sure he doesn't bust an artery. And then I think about this old gross-out movie from 1980 called Anthrophagus, and I'm just like, oh, man. And of course, the moment Ava finds any happiness, Dallas shows up back at the house and he wants to forgive her and he's coming back home. Didn't he just sign divorce papers, even explicitly saying that she can have the house? I mean, he even said that. So he's trespassing. And Ava's trying to play everything all cool, like, oh, you haven't met the real me. I'm a real bitch and I have 0 fucks to give. And I'm like, if you really had 0 fucks to give, you would call the police. So Dallas finds Benji in bed and a horribly choreographed fight between the two of them breaks out. And Benji actually takes care of Dallas pretty easily. He puts him to sleep. And Ava loses her goddamn mind and she drags Dallas's unconscious body out of the house. Her and Benji put Dallas in his car. Ava slaps Dallas to wake him up, and then she slams his car door so hard the glass breaks, which is impossible. The very next scene, Dallas, all beaten up, is at the bank where Ava works, and Rona sees this and she's like, girl, you need to get a restraining order. And Ava's like, no, don't worry about it. Forget him. And I'm like, bitch, you need a restraining order. Why are you treating him like he's different? He hasn't changed. You're supposed to be different now. Rona then calls Jim and is like, come get your boy. And I'm like, call the police. And that's the thing. The police don't exist in Tyler Perry land until maybe around the 3rd act, when a sheriff arrives at Benji's farm to let him know that someone poisoned all of his farm animals. So Perry is doing everything he can to make Dallas a truly detestable person, but he doesn't need to. He's just going completely over the top. Also, when did Dallas have time to poison all of Benji's farm animals? Jim shows up at the bank. Him and Dallas get into it. Dallas is like, screw this, fuck you, I'm leaving. And Jim's like, where are you going? And I'm like, let him leave. The writing is just so bad. Everything from the last scene is repeated by characters in the next one. Pastor Clarence makes a trip to Atlanta when he hears what's going on, while Dallas has Jason Voorhees' teleportation powers and somehow is able to go from the bank in Atlanta to the market where Ava's mom is shopping, and he physically harasses her. There's one lady in the aisle witnessing this whole thing, and I'm like, no one is calling the police, no one is doing anything, no one is even approaching him. This is not how people react in the real world to things. And Pastor Clarence, when he shows up at Ava's place, is packing heat, shotguns, pistols, and knives, and he instructs Ava to spread all the weaponry around the house for her own safety. And Pastor Clarence is a G. He is a pastor that is more about deeds than just praying about things. He is not going to pray to put you in the dirt. He is going to send you to hell himself. Actually, Pastor Clarence does have a pretty boss line. When he finds out that Dallas harassed his wife, he goes over to the Bertram place and he says, boy, I will meet you in hell if you touch my wife again. And Dallas can walk into any room. No locks can hold this man down. He shows up at Rona's house unannounced. And finally, Rona, obviously because she's the smartest person in the movie, is the one who finally calls the police. But not before we found out Jim, Rona's husband, ain't shit. They throw a twist that Jim is cheating on Rona. Apparently Dallas made this big scene and was like, oh, well, did you tell your wife that you were fucking this girl, blah, blah, blah? And it is so unneeded, just out of left field, just to show that Jim is not only weak-minded, but weak-willed as well. But yeah, Pastor Clarence finds out everything that's going on. He goes to the Bertram house. Ava's mom calls her and she's losing her mind. She's like, oh, Jesus. And I'm like, is Rona the only one who knows how to dial 911? So Pastor Clarence gets to the Bertram's trailer park and the Bertram boys shoot him in the leg and they basically beat him within an inch of his life. And you know, maybe this is why no one calls the police in this movie, because they are so inept. After Clarence gets shot, the police are like, well, we can't prove who shot him. The Bertrams took Clarence's shotgun, the same one they shot him with, and took it into their trailer park. You telling me that the police can't get a search warrant on their country ass? These people that have been causing trouble in this community for decades, and the police can't do anything about it? Come on, Tyler. And we get our big finale where once again, Dallas shows that no lock can hold him, and he breaks into Ava's house and he pulls out a gun. And the reaction Ava gives to that pretty much tells you all you need to know about their relationship. And at this point of the movie, Ava's supposed to have regained her strength, but she is antagonizing an angry, mentally unstable man with a gun, telling him how the other man she's with is so much better in bed than he is. Woman, do you want to die? Dallas then physically abuses her. He slaps her, chokes her, throws her across the room. It is actually pretty disturbing. And then Ava shoots him. And I'm like, yeah, could have done this 80 minutes ago. The final scene is the family at the hospital. Pastor Clarence is getting discharged, and him, Ava, Ava's mom, and Benji are exiting the hospital. While they're exiting, the Bertram boys and Mama Bertram are there. I guess they must be wherever Dallas is, or his dead body or something. I don't know why they're there. And Mama Bertram turns to Ava and she's like, "This isn't over." And I'm like, is Tyler Perry trying to sequel bait with this movie? Ava to Mama Bertram is like, let it go. And I'm like, please, let it go. Yeah, this is one of Tyler Perry's darkest endings. I mean, no one is really happy or satisfied when this movie is over. And then it just fades to black. No church. Man, this was an experience. Overall, Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Blank is bonkers, but you honestly have to endure some really bad dialogue, subpar TV movie level acting, and honestly, some boring moments between. Now, when this movie goes nuts, it goes ham, but it is more frustrating than entertaining. Meagan Good is too good for this movie. Ava, as a hero, is someone we are supposed to see grow into the strong woman we root for throughout all this adversity, and it is the weirdest cinematic fetish Tyler Perry has, to take his female characters and basically psychologically and sometimes physically passion of the Christ them to the other side, and we are supposed to be like, yes, girl. But Perry did everything to make his villain so detestable that he doesn't focus on anything else. So the movie obviously suffers, and this isn't surprising. Honestly, I was more entertained overall by Mea Culpa. It was just more insane. Is Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black one of his worst movies? I would say, yeah, it sort of is. On the entertainment side, it definitely is one of his more bonkers one, but in terms of construction, yeah, this movie is a hard pass. Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black is a major bomb. And even the title, Divorce in the Black, doesn't even mean anything. In the trailer, it was suggested that perhaps Ava was in this great big deal of debt, and her getting divorced was going to be the way for her to get back into the black financially, but that never comes up. But this is the kind of movie you can get high and drunk with friends with and just laugh at how insanely stupid this movie is. And Amazon has 3 more to go. Work ethic! What did you think of Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black? Share your thoughts, leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can get notifications as well. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.